Bonoiti amu mai ha surumutu kidane surumutu maka netema rowing into the deep hotetung katak Hean Baklean atu Hariku no Haklean itaniaan ho Maromak ninya Domin. Tambane hau agradece bamu ne presença hamutu ko hau ia kalang kemana kidane atu bele dada lia kona ba itane fiar liliu amu sefahe amu nia experiência boca sound experiência kona inoma atu ho experiência idane bele tulun dia klitan hau no mo se maseluk bele comprende no hatene kona basirane fiar iha nai Maromak dia klitan. So Father, once again, thank you very much for your time and spend time with me to share about your experience of vocation and faith in God. So thank you very much. The first question is, when did you realize that God was calling you to be a Jesuit and a priest?
Okay. First of all, even when I was young, I have always had the option of becoming a priest or getting married. It depends on God's call. So I was open to both vocations, even as I was very young. And as I am now 71 years old, and after 31 years as a priest and 41 years as a Jesuit, I can say that my desire, even when I was young, to become a priest is really God's promptings in my heart to lead me step by step to discern and choose His will. So, when I was studying overseas, as I became more involved, and together with the guidance of the Jesuit chaplain, Father Hugh, I began to realize more and more that the witness of his life as a priest, Jesuit priest to me, began people, especially the needs, whereby when they get in touch with God and their faith, their life begin to change into a life that is more meaningful. I was attracted to the witness of this good Jesuit priest, a very good English Jesuit priest, serving the poor African student in Southwest London. More and more, I wanted to become like him. And in my life, I began to discern more and more as I was studying and working that the life in the world can demand a lot from a person. To be successful in the world, you need to work very hard and to make a lot of sacrifices. However, even if we become very successful in the world, it does not guarantee that we will find true happiness in our life. And so as I was reflected on my life, I began to realize that the only way to discover true happiness in our life is to discover God's will. As I was reflecting on my life more and more, I began to realize that even if I were to live up to 95 years old in this world, 95 years old compared to eternity is like comparing one drop of water in the whole ocean. So the most important thing is to live a meaningful life. And that meaningful life, as God inspired me, was to seek and do God's will. And to know what is His will for me in my life in terms of vocation. At that time, I was also interested in somebody who was already in Singapore. I, in my mind, was more towards the vocation of married life. However, in my prayer, even though I was interested in the person, in my prayer, I continue to ask, I know that I will accept His will with God's strength in a peaceful way. To make a long story short, she went her way and I began to then ask God, what then is your will for me? Eventually, through this Jesuit priest, I began to realize that God is attracting me more and more towards becoming a priest, because in my service as a member of Legion of Mary to the poor and the needy students of Southwest London, I began to realize that it was more fulfilling than to have material success in the world. Gradually, this Jesuit priest was encouraging me also to say that I should try to discern and become a priest. Priest strangely encouraged me to become a diocesan priest. So I applied to the Diocese of Kuala Lumpur, and I was accepted as a seminarian. The bishop said, finish your studies. And my father also, when I wrote to him, he said, finish your studies, and if you want to become a priest, no problem. Everyone was happy. Bishop, maybe I should discern more about other religious congregation. So I went to discover more about other religious congregation. Finally, one Jesuit priest invited me for a weekend retreat in the Jesuit novitiate in Kuala Lumpur. I went, and from that weekend retreat, I discovered that the Jesuit charism speaks about universality, serving any person, any place, any time for God's greater glory. That universal charism of serving God's greater glory truly attracted me. And the novitiate timetable and the environment of Kuala Lumpur was very simple, plain, and that also attracted me. So I told the priest after the retreat that I feel I am attracted to the Society of Jesus. I applied, and within 2 months, I was accepted into the novitiate. So that is how I joined the Society of Jesus. And over the years, as I am 41 years as a Jesuit and 31 years as an ordained priest, I can say in a very brief manner that truly to live God's will is the most fulfilling and happy way to live our life. The 41 years has been a beautiful year, filled with challenges and filled with joy of being able to be used by God to serve so many people in so many ways. My formation in the Society of Jesus, I would say from novitiate till theology and tertianship, has been beautiful journey of discovering more about myself through discovering more about God. When I discover more about God in my life, I discover more about the truth about myself. And when I discover how God is present and working in my life, there is a desire to want to share God with other people, especially those who are lost in this world, those who are lost through materialism, those who are lost through all the pains and depression and darkness and sin of life. So that has given me a lot of joy in the service of God's people uh, in the 31 years as a priest. So I really can only thank God for all the blessing He has given me to be able to use me to serve His people. And now God's will is that He has sent me to Timor, and I've been here almost 3 years. And in the past 3 years has been filled with many, many challenges, especially getting used and adapting to the culture of Timor, which is very, very different from the culture of Malaysia and Singapore. Nevertheless, I must say that the past years here in Timor-Leste has been very beautiful years that have been fulfilling, discovering new challenges, new hopes, and new blessings by being in Timor.
Thank you very much, Father. This is very wonderful experiences. I think this is really inspire us as a young man, as a young Jesuit, to look forward to commit ourselves fully to the vocation that Jesus has put upon us. So thank you very much, Father. So the second question is, what has been the turning point of your life as a Jesuit and a priest.
I have discovered that as a Jesuit priest, to discover my identity and Jesuit vocation more clearly, I have discovered them through the services, the many different services that God, through my superiors, has asked me to serve. Immediately after my studies in the Loyola School of Theology in Ateneo, Manila, I was sent for tertianship in Northern Ireland. And after my tertianship, I was asked by my superior to prepare myself to be a novice director. So immediately after my tertianship, I spent about 9 months in Dublin to study a bit of spirituality. And after that, in 1996, June of 1996, I was sent straight from Ireland to Singapore. And there I started serving as a priest, as a novice director. I served for 12 and a half years as a novice director to something like about 69 different novices from many different countries of the aid assistancy. And those were beautiful, happy times of formation of novices. Then, after 12 and a half years, as I was about to finish my 13th year and take a year of sabbatical, the parish priest of the Jesuit St. Ignatius Church fell ill and he needed a replacement. So my superior asked me to be the parish priest of the St. Ignatius Jesuit parish. I obeyed and I became the parish priest. So as I became the parish priest there, it was in the year of April 2009. I was the parish priest there till September 2015, which is 6.5 years. After a few years as a parish priest, in the year of 2013 May, there was a new bishop in Singapore elected, Archbishop, now Cardinal William Goh. When he became bishop, he appointed me to be the Vicar General of his archdiocese in the area of administration and interreligious relationship. I did that as Vicar General for 7 years. And while I was Vicar General, I was also the rector of the cathedral and also the rector of St. Joseph Church. All these three big office was given to me all at the same time. And so, being obedient to God's will, I surrendered all these responsibilities that I had no experience to God, because I believe when God calls us, when God puts responsibility on our shoulders, He will give us the strength to serve His people in the way that He wants us to serve. So I served until June 2020 when COVID started, and then my superior told me, okay, after 7 years in the diocese as a Vicar General and Rector of Cathedral and St. Joseph Church, it is enough. You should stop and take a year of sabbatical. So I took 1 year of sabbatical during the COVID, and during that 1 year of sabbatical, I could not travel anywhere except to be in the community, because during COVID, you're not allowed to travel. So that 1 year of sabbatical was also a beautiful year of rest and reflection. And that prepared me towards the end of the sabbatical. My superior asked me, he wanted to send me on mission through the invitation of Amu Joachim Sarmiento to come to Timor. And I happily accepted. And then, as I already knew Timorese novices in the past, I happily accepted. And here I am for the past almost 2 years and 9 months, happily serving in different ways, again, as a novice director, and in different ways, I help the Timor region. So this is how, when we surrender our lives to God, we discover our Jesuit identity as a priest for me, and through the services, we discover God's greater glory and the beauty of the vocation.
Thank you very much, Father. One thing I want to say is to trust in God's will and trust in God's providence. We will discover God's will in our life. I think this is really important for us as a young Jesuit to really trust in God and in trust in His providence and trust in His will, so that we become more one with Him. Thank you very much for this. The last one is what is your recommendations to young men and women who want to commit their lives to religious life?
Okay. Um, at least for me, I would say that from my experiences, if any young men and women have the desire to live a more meaningful life in terms of discovering the deeper meaning of life in the way that God desires for us, then I think we should continue to be discerning the desires, the good desires of our hearts. Because to desire to live a meaningful life connected with God, especially with a desire to serve the needs of the people and the church, is a good sign of the beginning of a calling. So those young men and women who have this desire to serve the church and the people in any way, to live a meaningful life in God, I would say, do not delay. Look for a suitable religious life or the priesthood in the diocese or in the religious life, and discover more about the charism of how you feel you desire to serve God through the different people and through the different needs of the church and the world. We should not be afraid, because God who calls us will always be there to lead and guide us. The important thing about religious life and the priesthood is that the focus of our life and everything that we do is God, not us. When we focus on God, when we put God at the center of our lives, actually we have no worries. We have no more worries. What we have are challenges. Challenges to accept God's will, challenges to discern God's will, and challenges to be faithful to God's will. And when we are able to desire to serve God's will, God will always give us the blessing, the light, the strength, the wisdom. Even in times of many challenges, God will always be there. He will never fail us. So my advice to the young men and women who desire to discern their vocation, do not be afraid. Listen to your heart. Listen to the Spirit in your heart. Follow that desire and let God lead you. Important thing is to pray. Pray for God's will. Pray that you discover His will. And when you discover God's will, you will realize that your life is affirmed. God's calling is affirmed by the peace and the joy in your heart. That's how I felt when I realized God was calling me to the Society of Jesus. There was deep peace and joy in my heart to embrace this vocation and to surrender my life to God in the living of this charism. In the same way, I believe God will also touch the hearts of young men and women in similar ways, that they too will be filled with peace and joy and desire to live and surrender their lives in the ways that God wills of them. Never be afraid. Pray, surrender, be patient, and trust that God will always provide, and He will always reveal His will to us.
Thank you very much, Father. One last question. Is specifically to the Jesuits. What would you like to say to the young Jesuits in East Timor?
Well, I've been here almost 3 years, and one of the big challenges of the Timor Church is to first learn to inculturate the Timorese culture with the gospel. In whatever we do, in however we serve, we must put our faith as the foundation and the norm of doing what we have to do. The cultural complexities of Timor is very deep, but we must learn to discover God's presence and God's blessing through the culture that of the Timorese experiences. Timorese has gone through a lot of pain and violence through colonial powers of autocratic rule from, from the Portuguese for more than 400 years and from the Indonesians for 23 years. These are painful, difficult experiences. Again, to be able to transcend and go deeper than the pain and the hurts and to experience the healing grace of God, we must put God at the center of our life and deepen that, that reality of hurt and woundedness with God's compassionate and merciful love to bring forth healing and to share that healing with many other people who are going through a lot of similar pains and many others who do not yet know how to deepen their cultural experiences with the foundation of the faith. There are many beautiful blessing I see is the beautiful voices of young and the old. They sing so beautifully. And the voices of choirs in churches are so beautiful. For me, that is a sign for me that God is present in the hearts of Timorese, expressing themselves in the beautiful singing and the voices of the hymns that they are being sung. The joy and the blessings of Timor can become richer when we put God at the center and deepen that foundation with God, our relationship with God, and build stronger unity and peace in the country. Unity and peace based on the gospel, and become a nation that will witness to the rest of ASEAN, of Southeast Asia, that truly as a Catholic country, we shine forth the light of Christ to all other people. So Timor has great potential. It has a lot of blessing, but we must put God at the center and the foundation of our life. When we build on this, relationships and families will become more united. Our faith will be deepened, and we will be able to witness to God's truth and love to all peoples that, that are longing to deepen the meaning of their lives in God.
Once again, Father, thank you very much for the witnesses that you have been observed in East Timor, especially the church, our culture. That's really helpful for us as a young Jesuit to see and how to integrate the culture with the gospel. I think this is one of the thing that we need to work together as a Jesuit and as a people of East Timor nowadays. So I am very happy to have you and thank you very much. And I continue to pray for you and a good health to help East Timor, young Jesuits, and the people in East Timor to grow in their faith and love for God. So once again, thank you very much for this opportunity.